And CEO and co-founder of Asbestos Disease Awareness Organization from California. You're welcome, and you're recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you for giving me the honor and the opportunity to testify today at your critically important hearing. I know far too well that toxic chemicals are not just threats. They're a real part of life and death for many Americans. During the past 10 years since I've been coming to Washington, more than 100,000 Americans have lost their lives because of asbestos. I want to make it clear, I'm neither a lobbyist nor an attorney. I'm a mesothelioma widow. I co-founded the Asbestos Disease Awareness Organization back in 2004. We've become the largest independent nonprofit organization in the United States dedicated to eliminating asbestos-caused diseases. It's important for me today. I want to dedicate my testimony to Janelle and to Michael. Tragically, Janelle lost her life to mesothelioma just a few months ago. She was only 37 years old. She's left behind her husband and an 11-year-old son. And Michael, age 29, a mesothelioma patient, is fighting for his life, and he faces limited treatment options. My husband, Alan, was diagnosed with pleural mesothelioma in 2003. We had never heard of this asbestos-caused cancer, and we shortly learned it was incurable. Alan chose to undergo radical surgery. They removed a left rib, his left lung, resected his pericardium, and surgically replaced his diaphragm. When mesothelioma attacked his remaining lung, he was then tethered to oxygen, and he felt like he was breathing through a pinched straw for each breath, every second, every minute, every day. In 2006, my then 13-year-old daughter and I were by his side as he took his last breaths and died. Sadly, our stories are far too common. Asbestos is a known human carcinogen, and it remains legal and lethal in the United States. The Toxic Substances Control Act, TSCA, has failed to protect public health and our environment. In 1989, EPA issued a final rule under Section 6 of TSCA, banning asbestos-containing products. In 1991, however, this rule was overturned by the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. As a result, there is no ban on the manufacture, importation, processing, or distribution and commerce of asbestos-containing products. Asbestos has been banned in 54 countries without an economic consequence. It's time for TSCA reform, and more importantly, the burden of proof should shift to chemical manufacturers to prove their chemicals are safe. I want you to know that consumer, environmental, and occupational exposures continue. From 1900 to 2010, we have used more than 31 million tons of asbestos. And since 1965, nearly 1.4 million tons of asbestos has been used in friction products, brakes, clutches, and others. But I ask you today, each of you, do you know where asbestos is in your home, in your district, or inside the Capitol? Your constituents can't manage the toxic risk on their own. It was reported that 2,600 tons of asbestos debris were removed after the Joplin, Missouri tornado. And I want you to know that there are tons of toxic debris that littered the coastline after Hurricane Sandy. And it was California's Prop 65, not the EPA, that removed a child's toy from the consumer shelves that was contaminated with asbestos. Horrifically, last year we imported 1,060 tons of asbestos to meet so-called manufacturing needs. Now I want to be clear about this also. I've tried for 2 years through FOIA requests to identify who's importing asbestos, what is being manufactured, and where's the end product being used. My questions have all gone unanswered. Due to trade laws such as U.S. Code Title 13, Chapter 9, Section 301G, the information is all confidential. Yet asbestos has caused the largest man-made disaster. The CDC NIOSH statistics from 2000 to 2010 revealed 43,464 Americans have died from mesothelioma and asbestosis, and those are just two of the asbestos-caused diseases. So when we think about cost-benefit analysis and some of the other hoops that we have to jump, I want you to think about the lives that are claimed as you draft and pass meaningful TSCA reform. For Alan, Janelle, Michael, and the hundreds of thousands of other asbestos victims and their families, we deserve responsibility, accountability, and transparency. And without these three, no one is safe. No one. The asbestos facts are irrefutable. Every day, 30 Americans die from preventable diseases. We cannot alter history or bring back the dead. We can only learn and work to save the future lives. It's time for Congress to protect public health and pass meaningful TSCA reform legislation which truly empowers the EPA to finally ban asbestos. And as I've been saying for 10 years, one life lost to a preventable asbestos-caused disease is tragic. Hundreds of thousands of lives lost is unconscionable. Prevention remains the only cure. I have attached to my testimony a petition signed by 2,700 people who supports a ban of asbestos, and I welcome your questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate your testimony. Now I'd like to recognize